You asked me in the briefing meeting, what's the key to growth? And one of the things that I like to talk about is mindset. In fact, after this presentation, I'm going to do another presentation on mindset
nice.
internally at HubSpot, right? And mindset is important because you need to grow personally and professionally. And when you start a company, you need to understand what kind of company you're going to start.
Mhm.
And you have to understand why you're going to do this, right? What's your why? Because you know this as well as I do, Lee. It's hard to start a company. I have a slide of a baby lifting a barbell. I go, is it easier or harder to start a company in 2022? And it's a very good slide because I always get both answers. Some people say it's easier, right? Some people say it's harder,
Yeah.
right? And the answer is it's both.
Depends on perspective.
Right? Exactly. And it depends on how well thought out you have defined what you want to do. I think about probably 2012, I started solving problems differently.
Yeah.
Right. And how do you solve problems? What's your mental process when you're trying to solve problems?
Well, it's kind of different depending on the problem. I actually study this a lot, mental thinking, like mental modes, mental models. There's the prisoner's dilemma, when you talk about game theory and these kind of things. So I have different approaches that I kind of naturally go to depending on what the problem is. But to your point, though, the way I think about it is a company has to understand as they're starting out that there's a need in the market. So they have to really get a pulse for what the market needs. But then they have to bring a vision to that need. They can't just solve the need because then they're just like the next person. They have to solve it in a unique way.
Awesome. I like that. In 2012, I started a new philosophy for problem solving that's pretty consistent over most problems. And that is, I start with the goals and work backwards. I was just doing this today with my friend Rachel. Rachel and I assist in building boot camps within HubSpot Academy.
Okay.
And I'm like, all right, what is the end state? What do you want to do? And she's like, that's a good question. And I'm thinking, for anybody, if you don't know where you want to end up, how are you going to solve?
How are you going to get there?
Why did it take me to 2012 to figure that out? Right now, I tell everybody, okay, what is you want to accomplish? And it's the same thing for scale small business. Right?
I think people just lose sight of where they're going as they're grinding away each day.
Nicest people in the world. Yeah. Right? There's no question they want to help themselves. They want to help their customers. They want to grow. All that stuff is true. Right? But unless you have a designed end state, start with the goals and work backwards. It's impossible to figure out just going along, right? You don't know if you're ahead or behind. You don't have a plan or whatever is happening, right? And my personal experience in B2B software is it takes 8 years to build a great company. 8 years, right? In those 8 years, there's so many curveballs. There's so many issues. There's economic variations. There's global pandemics. There's wars. There's crashes in all kinds of different assets. It's like crazy. And that's just the way human life is in the modern world.
It's true.
Right? So you got to be prepared. You got to understand that it's going to be totally different than your expectation. You've got to realize that it's expectation that you're going to start with, this is where I want to be every year and in the long term.